All right, everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always.
Today we're tackling something that, well, it's got a kind of dreamy vibe, but it's also, like, surprisingly complicated.
Oh, I like where this is going.
Wedding dress train lengths. Yep, we're going deep on trains, and our trusty guide is an article from Darianna Bridal Tuxedo.
Catchy title, too. 5 wedding dress train lengths.
5. That's a lot more than I even realized existed. So, listeners, picture your dream wedding for a second. Are you, like, gliding down the aisle with a train that seems to go on forever? Or are you more the sleek and chic type?
I think a train really sets the tone, wouldn't you say? It's not just about how it looks, it's about the feeling it creates.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, totally. So let's start with the most basic, the sweep train. The article says it barely even goes past the dress. Is that even really a train?
Oh, it's a train, for
Yeah.
sure. You know, it might be subtle, but it definitely adds a touch of, I don't know, formality, elegance, even with just that little bit of extra fabric.
Like a whisper of drama.
Yes, exactly. Perfect if you're having a more casual ceremony or if you just want to be able to move around easily.
I'm picturing like a beach wedding. Flowy dress, little breeze catching the train. Okay, but what about a bride who wants a bit more? What's next on the train ladder?
Next rung up would be the court train. That one extends about a foot or two behind the gown.
The article calls it a subtle extension. Kind of makes me think of a classic car, you know?
I see what you mean. And it's a classic choice for a reason, right? It's timeless and it works in so many different settings. Traditional church, garden wedding, court trains got you covered.
Timeless is good. But, okay, the article also talks about bustling. Can you even bustle a court train?
Absolutely. You know, bustling's something to think about with any train. But a court train is usually pretty straightforward to bustle. French bustle, American bustle, lots of options, and it all depends on what kind of look you're going for.
Okay, see, this is why I love these deep dives. So many details I wouldn't even have thought to ask about. So we've got sweep, we've got court. What's next?
All right, now we're getting to the trains that really make a statement. Chapel train that's 3 or 4 feet long.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Mhm.
I bet you start to see some real drama when the bride walks down the aisle with them.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? It's still manageable for most venues, and it bustles like a dream.
So you can still get your dance on without tripping over a 4-foot train. Got it. Now, okay, here it comes. The showstopper. The cathedral train. 5-6 feet of fabric trailing behind you.
Now, that is a sight to behold. Did you know the cathedral train actually wasn't that common until the 80s?
Really?
Yep, Princess Diana's wedding dress.
That sounds like a recipe for a dance floor disaster.
You'd need a dedicated train wrangler just to manage all that fabric.
So we've gone from a whisper to a full-on majestic sweep. That's quite a range. What helps a bride decide where on that spectrum she belongs? I mean, how do you choose?
That's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, that's where the article gets really helpful. So many factors to consider.
All right, let's dive into those factors then. I bet our listeners are ready to start narrowing down their options.
It really is. You know what they say, choosing the right train length is like, well, it's like finding the final piece of the puzzle.
And speaking of puzzles, the venue's got to be a big piece of that, right?
No, huge. I mean, can you imagine a cathedral train in a tiny little chapel?
Disaster waiting to happen. All that fabric bunched up, you'd be tripping over it.
Right. So before you go falling head over heels for a specific train length, think about your venue. How big is it? What's the layout like?
Makes sense. Okay, so venue, check. What else should a bride be thinking about?
Well, personal style, obviously. The article talks about that, and it's so important. You know, some brides have always dreamed of that big princess moment,
Right.
but others want something, I don't know, more understated, maybe a little more modern.
So let's say our listener's got the venue figured out and she knows her personal style. What's next?
Okay, this is where it gets fun. We got to talk about fabric.
Fabric.
Yeah, the article mentions it, but honestly, it's huge. The fabric of your dress totally changes how the train falls, how it moves.
Okay, break it down for us. How does fabric play into this whole train length thing?
Picture this. Sweep train, flowy chiffon, beach wedding.
Okay, I'm seeing it.
It's ethereal, romantic, moves beautifully in the breeze.
So pretty.
Now picture this. A court train, structured satin, ballroom setting.
Different vibe.
Totally. Polished, sophisticated. And then think about like a cathedral train. If it's heavy satin, it'll be super dramatic, lots of volume.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's lighter, like tulle, it'll be more delicate, kind of floaty.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. I never would have thought about all this fabric stuff.
That's why it's so important to try on different dresses, different fabrics, see how they move, how they feel when you walk.
Because, let's be real, you want to be able to move gracefully on your wedding day.
Exactly. You don't want to be fighting your dress or your train, for that matter.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've got venue, personal style, fabric, anything else.
Yeah, is that it?
One more biggie. Theme. What's the overall vibe of your wedding?
Oh, right, the theme. Boho. Fairy tale vintage.
Exactly. So think about how the train length can complement your theme. If you're going for a bohemian vibe, maybe you're drawn to a flowy sweep or court train. But a more formal, traditional wedding might call for a chapel or cathedral train.
So it's all about creating a cohesive look.
You got it. It's your wedding, so there are no rules, really. It's about finding what feels right for you.
Speaking of finding what feels right, the article mentions alterations. So, can a bride actually customize the train length?
Oh, absolutely. A good seamstress can work magic on a wedding dress. You can shorten a train if it's too long, or even, add a detachable skirt or train if you want more versatility.
Wait, detachable train? That's a thing.
It is. So you can have that drama of a long train for the ceremony,
I love it.
and then boom, detach it for the reception so you can dance the night away.
So smart.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like we've covered so much ground here. We started with the subtle sweep and ended up at the, majestic monarch. What would you say is the biggest takeaway for our listener?
I think it boils down to this. The perfect train length. It's the one that makes you feel amazing on your wedding day, confident, beautiful.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, how it looks, how practical it is, and most importantly, how it makes you feel. It's your day to shine.
I love that. And the train's just one element that helps you tell your story.
Exactly.
Okay, so we talked about all the practical stuff. But, there's got to be a more emotional side to choosing a train length. It's not just about how it looks. It's about how it makes you feel.
Oh, 100%. Especially with the longer trains, like a cathedral or royal train, it can be a real confidence booster. It's like you're saying, here I come.
And that feeling is going to translate into some amazing photos, right?
Oh, photographers love trains. They create leading lines, add movement, drama, and, it's not just about the photos.
Right.
It's about the whole experience of the wedding day. Every detail contributes to that.
From the dress to the flowers to, even the length of the train. It all comes together to create that magic.
Exactly.
Okay, before we move on, I want to go back to something the article mentions about using a veil to create a similar effect to a long train. What do you think about that?
Oh, veils are great for that.
Yeah.
Especially the longer ones, like a cathedral or chapel-length veil. You can get that same drama, that flowy movement, without the hassle of a super long train.
And it's way easier to manage, right? You can take it off if you need to.
Exactly. So if you're torn between practicality and drama, a veil could be the perfect compromise.
Love that idea. So maybe a veil plus a shorter train is the best of both worlds.
Something to think about, right? It's all part of the wedding dress journey.
So true. As we've been talking about all these things, the venue, the fabric, the theme, it really hits you that choosing a train length, it's not just about picking what looks pretty.
Yeah, it's deeper than that. I think it's really interesting how a train can actually make the whole wedding day better, and not just for the bride.
Oh, interesting. For the guests, too.
Think about it. You're a guest, you see the bride coming down the aisle, and that train is just flowing behind her.
Okay, yeah.
It creates this sense of, anticipation, like a moment of awe.
Makes it feel extra special.
Exactly. It's like a performance, and it adds to the magic of the ceremony. And it's not just what you see, it's also the sound, the rustling of the fabric.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
It engages all your senses, makes it a richer experience for everyone.
You're right. It's like the bride becomes this, ethereal being just gliding down the aisle.
There's definitely a transformation that happens. And it's not just for the bride, it's for everyone watching her. It's a symbol of, change, moving into this new chapter.
I love that. And it makes me think about the history of trains. They've been part of wedding dresses for ages. Do you know how that all started?
Well, way back when, trains were all about showing off your wealth and status. The longer your train, the more important you were.
Makes sense. Like those royal weddings, those trains were epic.
Oh, yeah, they were practically their own parade. But obviously, things have changed a lot since then.
Right.
Today, while a train still makes things feel formal and elegant, it's more about, personal style.
So it's less about bragging and more about showing off your unique vision.
Exactly. It's about creating a look that's all you, a look that sets the tone for your whole wedding.
I'm so glad we did this deep dive. I mean, who knew there was so much to learn about a train?
Right. It seems so simple at first, but it's actually super complex. And when it comes to weddings, Those little details, they really matter.
It's so true. Well, I think our listeners are leaving today with a whole new understanding of wedding dress train lengths.
And maybe feeling a little more inspired as they start their own wedding dress search.
Totally. So remember, everyone, it's your day to shine, and that train is just one piece of the puzzle, one more way to tell your love story. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time for another deep dive into all the fascinating details that make life so interesting.